Thank you for joining us on Morning Express. It's now just gone 3 minutes after 7 and it's time for Person of Interest. Joining me this morning is the Governor for Mombasa County, also the Deputy Party Leader for Orange Democratic Movement, and that is none other than Ali Hassan Joho. Good morning and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. No, that's okay.
It's been a bit, the weather has been up and down.
I know, and I've had a hectic weekend anyway. So
you've had a very busy weekend as well, and into the weekend, of course, with the celebrations yesterday. I'm sure it was also busy for you.
Yes.
And Mombasa, also given the attack that was there, that is your home turf. So I know it was also a matter of concern for you.
Yes, indeed, it was a matter of concern, and we had quite a busy weekend. And unfortunately, as we're looking forward to the Eid celebration, that heinous incident happened, which we condemn in the strongest term possible, and also commend the police for the swift action.
For the swift action that they took. Would you say that security in Mombasa has improved?
Well, significantly, security has improved. My only concern is this new thing that happened on Monday, because it never happened before. And maybe it needs to get us talking again, picking a conversation on what really is in the minds of the criminals. Because I could not imagine a woman getting into a police station with a petrol bomb and a knife to want to try and attack a policeman. So for me, it's something that it gives us a new dynamic of a kind of conversation, or the narrative that we want to have as a people.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll get to Mombasa County as it has been under your leadership now for the last 4 years, going to 5, and we'll get into that. But first of all, on Person of Interest, we also like to know about you and how, where you grew up, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I was born and raised in Mombasa. At the age of 20 years, started doing a business. And I went to school in Mombasa, and then I got elected as Member of Parliament. I first started politics in 2004, which was not very successful in the by-election, and Lelet Maida died. And then 2007, I ran for Kisauni MP, and then, yeah, that's what I am today.
Okay. And was that something you always dreamt of?
No, I never imagined I'd be a politician. In fact, I can tell you, that night that Maida died, I called a friend. I said, "Have you had the sad news?" And he said, "Sad news, but looking at it in another way, why don't you run?" I said, "Come on, stop joking." But then we picked on the conversation before we realized I was in the ballot.
You're in the ballot. What is it that you'd say made you get into politics? Because I would imagine you're already doing business, so it was not so much for an income.
Well, what happened is that we started talking on, some of my friends around me, my family, started telling me, instead of criticizing leadership that is in position all the time, why don't you give it a shot and, give us those ideas that you're talking to us probably all the time about, how you can move them forward and implement them. So that's how it all began. We started talking, as just a conversation. And then we said, you know what, why don't I give it a shot? Of course, I had ambitions, but then there was that notion of how do you run against a hurricane like Maida. It used to be called Hurricane. And
right.
Yeah, this big name. And so at some point we decided, you know what, let it be.
Okay. And you've brought in Karisa Maida here, and he was known as de facto coast leader, in the time. And we've had quite a number of them. Do you see yourself growing to that point where you become the de facto coast leader?
I think that's not really my interest. My interest is to be a person that can be able to unite the coastal people, a person that can ensure there's continuous conversation on how we can better the lives of the people. For me, the kingpinship is not really an interest such as that it has to be me. For me, what is important is how do we as a people come together, unite, and plan for the best interest of the people that we lead. So whether kingpinship whatever it is, that's neither here nor there. Of course.
Okay, but you've talked about unity. What would your analysis be from the time you've taken leadership in the Mombasa County? Have you united people or divided? Because you've been accused of dividing, and case in point would be the recent defection of one of the leaders from Coast. Apparently it's because you antagonized them.
No, that's not. You see, what happened is that if you look at between 2007 and 2013, majority of us were elected through ODM, and then we held together for a long time. This time, you hear such sentiments only from the people or the leaders that have chosen to take another path. Basically, those that have chosen to join Jubilee, those are the people that would use such sentiments. But for me, basically, they're just looking for an excuse. But for the rest of us, we talk a lot. All the time we have conversations on how we can pull together as a people.
But somebody like Gideon Mungaro, for example, is on record saying that it is because he felt he was not supported by ODM and ODM leaders in the coast. Is that true?
I mean, if you're a member of parliament, why would you want to be supported by other leaders serving your constituents, for that matter? Mungaro, in my own opinion, his relationship with the president is historical. These are boys that, they used to be boys during Kanu days. And therefore, we expected it, personally expected it, because I know how close they were. And for me, using my name won't work, because simply, I run Mombasa County government, he is supposed to be leading Kilifi North. And therefore, where do we connect in serving the people? Yes.
You've also got the likes of Omar Hassan, who has been very critical of your leadership. And at one point, you seem to be close, but that relationship seems to have drifted.
Well, he has his democratic right to choose the path that he wants to take on. And this time he has announced that he wants to run against me. And therefore, I don't expect us to be very close when we are competing. And I want to allow him his space so he can continue to do what he wants to do. And hopefully we meet at the ballot.
Okay. Well, that time will tell and how that is going to roll out. Let's talk about the meeting that you had on Saturday. And first of all, your analysis of 10 at 10. What is it that Orange Democratic Party was celebrating?
Our being 10 years old. First of all, we wanted to review as a party, collectively, 47 counties been represented and the national leadership, to review where we are at as a party. Then the other thing that we needed to come out clear is how do we then move forward as a party, both in engaging the coalition and how do we strengthen ODM nationally. So for me, it was important that we met, not only to celebrate our being 10 years, because that is a fact, we're 10 years old. It happened at a time when our competitors also had their launch. Somebody would imagine that we are competing, but no, we were 10 years old.
Actually, it was said that it was a reactionary measure by Orange Democratic Movement because of the Jubilee launch.
In fact, if anything, that question should be addressed to the other side.
Why to the other side?
Because we are 10 years old. We couldn't be 10 years old 2 years or 2020, whatever, but we were 10 years.
This was the time you were 10 years old. But the reason why you said that it was reactionary is mainly because we didn't hear about the ODM 10 at 10 until the Jubilee launch was announced.
We had announced, as a party, we had announced after the Grand Regency dinner that there shall be a series of celebrations around the country. So Mombasa happened to be the first one. And there shall be others. We're coming here to Nairobi. After Nairobi, we're going to go to Western Kenya and many other places to celebrate our being 10 years old. So it is nothing to do with, reacting to
the Jubilee
launch. Yes, okay. Of course not.
All right. And let's just look at critically, what would you say ODM has achieved in the last 4 years as the opposition?
Well, first of all, the democratic space that we enjoy today is as a result of the struggle that we all had to participate in. But most importantly, for me, I identify with ODM. You look at the reforms. Today, we have initiated, not some of them not very successful, but the reform agenda, it is part of, in fact, largely
ODM.
It is ODM push to where we are today. And devolution, and by the way, generally, the constitution, it is as a result of our push and the push of our party leader. So for me, we have achieved a lot, because if you look at what the constitution gives us as a country over the period from where we were and where we are today, every part of the country is enjoying the evolution. And that for us was our agenda in ODM. So we have done quite a bit so far. But of course, there's still a lot more that needs to be done. And that's why we're saying we needed to have a conversation, review where we are at, and agree how we're pushing forward as a people.
All right. It would be unrealistic to talk about success without looking at the failures.
Certainly.
What are some of the failures that you'd say ODM has done over the time, and how maybe you'd possibly overcome those failures?
Well, allowing our elections to be stolen is one of our greatest failures, in my own opinion. We had a very successful election in 2007. Our candidate won by a huge margin before we realized it was taken from us.
When you say allowing, what do you mean by allowing?
Because it happened, and we could not, at that time, rather we were not very well prepared to take them on, and that's why we had to take a decision to move away from, to cede ground, because people started losing lives and stuff like that. But if we had, let me say this
as a success.
No, let me say this. That
you did that for the sake of the country.
Yes, but that for us has gotten us to think on how we get into the next election, this 2017 one, and that's why we have been pushing for reforms. For example, we want results announced, presidential results announced at a polling station, a ward or a stream where we do our own tally. The other party does their own tally, and then we do a national tally. That for us is what we want to see, because if it happened at that time, probably we would not have gotten where we got to in 2007.
Okay. Any other failures apart from accepting, or rather, letting your winning be stolen, as well as you've put it?
No, that's just one. And of course, the challenges are always there, but I can't term that to be failure. But we had a fair share of challenges, a few defections here and there. But that for me is the normal practice in politics, particularly going to the electioneering year. So, by and large, ODM is fairly a successful party.
Okay, but you on behalf of the party, have said that the defections are of none effect. There is no impact. But is that really the truth? There's bound to be impact. I'm sure politics is about numbers, and you need as many as you can get.
Michael, this is nothing new to us as politicians. We have seen, and I gave an example in Mombasa. There was the Makweres, the Balalas, the Kazungu Kambis who left us. They were with us. Here in Bukambani, there was Ngilu and many others. In Western Kenya, there are a number of people that were with us and they left us. My question is, where are they today? So I advised our brothers and sisters who are now feeling that they're solid enough to go their way, that they're repeating a similar mistake that was earlier.
So is the gauge of success here where they are today? They might be by principle not in politics, but maybe not because they left ODM.
You see, you as a politician, you must believe in and stand with certain issues. For example, we in the coastal region are very concerned on matters to do with land, insecurity, and unemployment, and opportunities, and how best we can better the lives of the people. And if we don't see that, if we don't see a clear policy on the other side on how these issues can be dealt with, I have no business being on the other side. So for me, it is not me as a person and what satisfies me, but it should be about what serves the best interest of the people that we lead. So for me, I don't see that in the Jubilee government. They have never done it. In fact, if anything, they sold us land, squatters, for the first time in the history of this country. Bought their own land from government and at a profit. So then how do you ask me to identify with such a party or such a movement that continues to oppress our people?
Okay. Now, let's come back to ODM as a party. And it has been said, and I'd like to hear what your comments are on this, that the party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, has one last bullet in this election. Do you agree to that train of thought?
First of all, my own assessment, and with due respect to all the other candidates, I have a lot of respect for all the candidates that are running for this seat in 2017. But my thinking is that if there was a person that has a formidable force and can take on the incumbent, then is Raila Odinga. And then if there's a person that has a track record to have worked for the country, then it is Raila Odinga. If there's a person that is resilient enough in politics and has a following that requires any person to imagine you would fight an incumbent, then it is Raila Odinga. And I'm saying this as a party. With all due respect, I've said it before, I'm not against the other party leaders or coalition, the members of our coalition who want to run in 2017 as presidential candidates. But as a party, we have a position, and our position is that we prefer Raila Odinga to run. I don't mind Wiper saying they want Kalonzo to run. Then let them come now. We have a conversation on how we can best nominate who shall be in the ballot. But for me, as long as I'm concerned, ODM, the most qualified candidate is Raila Odinga.
Why do you think he's the most qualified?
Because he has what it takes.
The numbers.
He has what it takes. The numbers, the ideas, he believes the ideology of where he's brought the country to where we are today and his plans going forward.
Okay, is this his last bullet? Should he not go for presidency?
I wouldn't say that's the last bullet. In fact, if anything, Raila has built a very strong team around him, including ourselves. So the terminology last bullet for me doesn't work. I don't know who brought it, but for me it doesn't work.
So you don't think that's true?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
All right, let's talk about devolution. And under your leadership, Mombasa County, there are several questions that are coming in, especially from Mombasa, and I'll refer to them as we go along. But let me first hear your scorecard from yourself regarding Mombasa County.
I think we've done very well. We had wanted to transform basically we wanted to better the lives of the people, and we needed to think which line in terms of priority needed to be looked at. And we started with health. Today we have transformed the Coast General Hospital, and the facility now can offer services that never used to be offered before. It's become very comfortable, very clean. We have built the human resource capacity at the facility.
And hopefully have those pictures, I think we had them earlier, of Coast General Hospital.
That would be good to look at. And then we've also introduced the healthcare machinani, where we have built several level 4 hospitals that are yet to be completed, 90% done, and launched, so that we truly turn the level 5 facility into a referral facility and a learning facility, so that we can combine all the facilities together with Coast General and share resources and distribute probably specialized kind of treatment along the other 4 level facilities together with the Coast General facility. So therefore, for me, we've made tremendous progress in healthcare. The other day the Deputy President came and said they have given us 700 million on MES, those lease purchase of the equipment. But as a county, we give over 2 billion every year into Coast General alone. And today, Coast General, for example, is at a point where when you go in, you will never miss any kind of medication. We, for the first time after 50 years of independence, we've had an open heart surgery done at the Coast General.
Is that courtesy of a devolved government? Or
certainly, because this is the equipment that we had bought earlier. I want you to remember the equipment that is being distributed by national government. Some of it is being distributed at this point now. For example, the MRI that we're supposed to get in Mombasa hasn't arrived, and hopefully I'm told it will arrive any time now. So this is as a result of devolution and the kind of equipment that we had earlier bought ourselves. So for me, that has worked wonders. The other area of interest is the basic infrastructure. When we got in, I asked for a brief on the number of roads that had been tarmacked and the kilometers. And I realized since independence, we had just over 30 kilometers that had been tarmacked. But since the inception of devolution, we now have done close to 70 kilometers. So we've not only been able to deal with the issues of drainage, which is about, in Mombasa we've done about 50 kilometers, but we've successfully done urban standards of road within 3 years up to 70 plus kilometers. Okay. That for me is a great success.
It's a great success. And one of, Mombasa of course is one of the main hubs when it comes to tourism. Yet sometimes from the time you land at the airport to the time you get to either one side of Mombasa to the other, traffic has become a menace. What is the county government doing about that to address that particular?
Well, first of all, I want you to know that Mombasa on a daily basis has about 10,000 trucks that leave the port. I have not counted those that the inbound containers or trucks. Those that leave the port is about 10,000 trucks. So of course there would be challenges. But first thing that we did, I think probably we're the first county to introduce traffic marshals, so to help to manage traffic on our roads. The other thing that we did is to build a lot of the feeder roads so that the residents of Mombasa are not necessarily forced to use the main roads that will see them go through a lot of traffic. So there's a lot of connecting roads that we have built in the county. Then the other thing is the conversation we had with the agencies of national government, the donors. For example, if you landed in Mombasa today, you will see a road being constructed that is funded by Trademark East Africa. This is a result of a conversation around how do we create an infrastructure that will support the port, because for far too long there has been a specific focus on how do we grow the port. So we needed to find a way on how or what it is that we can do to create an infrastructure that will support the port without necessarily interfering with day-to-day lives of the residents. So for me, there's a lot of progress, but of course there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Okay.
I know ADB Bank is having a conversation with the Ministry of Infrastructure on expansion of the Digo Road all the way to Mazeras, dual carriage after Changamwe all the way to Mazeras. That will make a big difference. I also know that Trademark East Africa has a second phase of the program on expanding all the roads in Mombasa West. So there can be a split on the trucks that leave the port and of course the day-to-day traffic of people coming in and out of Mombasa.
All right. One of the other headaches that Mombasa has had is to do with drugs and drug abuse. It's become a huge a menace for the youth there, but also as a conduit. There's been a lot of drugs by virtue of the fact that the port is there. What is your county government doing to address that particular area?
In fact, there's two areas here. One is the port operations that we are not involved in any way. The county government has no role whatsoever in the involvement of the port. But as to the youth, we have done several programs. We are the first county to have introduced the MAT program, which is methadone program. This today, as we sit here, has enrolled close to 500 young people that go every day for rehabilitation, and they've gotten back to normal life, with other people, because the treatment is ongoing and we are providing it free of charge. We have also introduced an outreach program together with civil society in Mombasa on how we can help the addicts to rehabilitate them. We've also introduced, for example, in Shikaadabu, through the community, rehabilitations that are done at their residence. We provide the medication to the families, and then we do a bit of training, and then they can be able to take their children through rehabilitation, which has worked very successfully. We had earlier had a conversation with the national government on turning the NYS in Miritini, the NYS center in Miritini, into a rehab center, but that hasn't materialized. We're hoping that we had this conversation with the minister very recently. We're hoping that we can move it forward. But besides that, we realize also the biggest challenge is unemployment. So as the national government has tried to roll out Uwezo Fund and Youth Fund and these other facilities, we realize that there is kind of a fear with the people on getting to involve themselves in such arrangements. So what we did as a county is we rolled out our own revolving fund. And now we go to the people. We knock at their doors and say, you know what, we want to train you. We want to give you the capacity that you need, and we want to give you resources to be able to do business, which has been very, very successful. And I think if you look at these other funds over the period, ours, we're doing it for the first time, but we have the numbers maybe 5 times than the ones that have been existing.
Okay. The other area of concern is commercial sex workers, by virtue of the fact that we have many foreigners coming in, and also Mombasa being a holiday place where people, go to have leisure. What is it that you're doing to address that? And as we look at that, what opportunities are you creating for the youth? Because that's what would deter them from that, from drug abuse, and also going onto the streets for sexual gain in terms of making that as commercial sex workers.
Well, one thing that we did when we got in, because I looked at the statistics and I realized we are, as a county, the highest on unemployment. So that time we engaged the FID together with the Department of Youth and Education and developed a curriculum on how do we build capacity so that we can get a lot of our young people to have entrepreneurship thinking rather than basic employment. So we, over the period, have trained over 6,000 to 7,000 young people, and we've turned many of them into business people. Small scale, but doing very well for themselves. This has enabled them to better their lives. For me, what is important is to build capacity around people. And looking at where you've come from, where you've asked, or what you've asked rather, is what kind of opportunities do we allow for the both
the community?
Precisely the point. Because I know for a fact no woman would want to take to the streets just because she's having fun, because it's a lot of risk that they have to go through. So for us, it is that opportunity that we need to create for them, and to get people to talk. People must talk. The communities must talk. It is about the upbringing. It is about giving people hope that will probably get a lot of these young people out of the streets and get involved in something that will be meaningful to their lives.
So are there projects or are there initiatives that the county government has brought in place that you can quote?
Yes.
That is actually addressing that?
There is a program that we call KUZA program. This is community driven, funded by DFID, of course facilitated by the Department of Youth in the county government. So this has helped a great deal to get people to talk on the kind of challenges they have, and we design training programs based on what they want to do, the kind of business they want to get into, and then we link it on how we can provide the resources for them to do the business, and also we connect it to the demand of the private sector within the county. So we pick a conversation with the business community on areas where they have gaps, and then we develop a curriculum to train the people around that area of interest, so that when they finish the training, they can easily access both opportunities that within the private sector and those that they can do for themselves.
Okay. Now, you've also been quoted, and it's on record, you saying that you're going to throw your hat into the ring for the presidential race.
Inshallah.
Over time, and I'm sure you still maintain that. What is it that you think would make you a good president?
Well, first of all, I believe strongly this country needs a person in leadership that can be able to unite the entire nation. I believe strongly that that can only happen when people nationally get to talk. And my thinking is that I would have decided that let me do it in 2017. But I think we have leadership in ODM that will help us to create that environment within the country that will allow anybody from any community who believes that he can provide better leadership in the country that opportunity to run. So that is why I said 2022. I want to be very well and fully prepared to run at that time. And I believe I can unite the country. I've been from a small, minority community, would want to work with everybody within the country so that we create that opportunity or platform for us to bring this country together and address the issues that faces day in and day out, year in, year out.
Okay. And maybe we'll just have an upsound of what you had to say in terms of now preparing for presidency before we continue with this conversation. Remember, you're welcome to send in your questions through Twitter, and I'll see whether we can pose them. But this is what you had to say.
Ruto na Uhuru mpaka 2032. Mimi Hassan Joho, kwa uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu nataka 2022 nitapata nafasi wapi?
Okay, and one of the things that you would be expected to do as president is to uphold and defend the Constitution.
Certainly.
And you would do that.
Certainly.
Okay, let's go back to some of the requirements.
Primarily, that really is
the reason why you're there. So let's go back to some of the.
And let me say why. Let me tell you why I said that. Because you see, our Constitution guides us, and like you said, we need to uphold our Constitution. Our democracy is that we vote in a president or any other leader for a period of 5 years. For me, I find it very unfortunate that the president and the deputy president would come out to say, for anybody who imagines to be in leadership in this country, you have to wait until 2032. I don't think that is a just statement. I don't think that is a fair statement. It defeats the purpose of us being a democratic country. And that's why I said, I will not wait. I can't be told to wait until 2032 simply because they have kind of an understanding that Uhuru is supported, and then thereafter he hands it over to William Ruto. That doesn't work.
Ultimately, it's the people who will decide.
Precisely
so
the point.
That, I would imagine it's a political statement.
Such sentiments should not come from the president and the deputy president. And they did it so rudely that if you think of becoming a president, you have to wait until 2032. We can't do that. As a country, we should not do that. What about me and you, Michael? We're young people. How old will you be in 2032?
Well, that can.
Where will you be?
I don't even know where I'll be at that time.
It's precisely the point. So me, I can't wait until 2032 to wait for who? For what?
It has also been said that you have personal differences with the president and the deputy.
I don't. True? Why would I have? Like I said the other day, the only thing I don't want to do is for me as Hassan Joho to work with the Jubilee Party. But I said that the Constitution guides clearly on how a county government get involved or gets functions complemented by the national government. So I said, let us just follow the Constitution, but don't have a conversation with me on joining Jubilee or working with working with the Jubilee government. It is the county government that can work with the national government. And that is clearly embedded in our constitution.
What is wrong with working with Jubilee government for the benefit of the people? And not to say that you go by the ideologies of the Jubilee government, but the fact that there are some functions that are national. That
is why I'm saying Article 6 of the Constitution clearly stipulates on how the county government is supposed to work with the national government.
Correct.
And that is what I'm saying we need to uphold. Let the county government work with the national government, but not necessarily the leader of the county government, working with the coalition or a party that is in power. No. And for me, what more development do I want besides the ones that are guided in the Constitution? I only would ask that the national government please follow the Constitution to the letter, share resources as it is embedded in the Constitution. And I would ask, as a county government, distribute resources, share the functions as they are in the Schedule 4 of the Constitution. And that will help us a great deal to move away from the politics of bootlicking ruling parties or ruling coalitions.
All right, let's go back to your presidential bid, and this would be what, 2022?
Inshallah, if God gives us
God
life.
willing.
Yes.
And I did ask a question regarding the Constitution. Now let's go back to a constitutional requirement that has been given to you currently as a governor, and that is a public servant. Have you declared your wealth?
Well, of course I have. We do file our tax returns that clearly stipulates to the last cent what we have. We have declared to the EACC.
You as an individual has declared your wealth, just like we...
Of course. Of course. We have.
Okay. All right. If you have done that, then I guess then that frees you and it shows that you are following the Constitution.
Certainly.
Okay. All right. And now in terms of what you have to offer Kenyans as the president come 2022, what is it that you would do differently? You've mentioned that you're young and we'd be expecting ideas, we'd be expecting innovative ways of making this country a better place.
First of all, you must be responsive to the issues. This country must be open and transparent. This country must have a conducive environment for investment, for opportunities, and for the people locally to do business. This country must move away from corruption. I mean, I looked at the report that has been launched by some organization in the US on the standard gauge railway, and it clearly stipulated, if you look around East Africa, if you look at Ethiopia, and if you now look at Tanzania, they're beginning to do theirs, they are 40% cheaper than Kenya. For me, it means, therefore, you have denied resources that would have bettered the lives of Kenyans and went into people's pockets. That we must, as a people, fight vehemently to move away from corruption. The other thing is, how do we unite us? How do we share resources equitably? How do we ensure devolution works? For me, if I was President Uhuru Kenyatta, let me tell you, I would ensure I give the counties a lot more resources, even if it is based on conditional grant arrangement. You know, you want to build roads and therefore you tell the counties, these are the resources, manage, engage the people, allow participation from the people. Let them decide the kind of development they want and we facilitate for you. Let the people be able to make a decision on how they want to move with their lives. And I picked an interesting conversation last week. This issue of in the blue economy. And I said, for me, I see a deliberate move to make the people more poor. For example, I don't think even the SGR conversation was participated by many of the people that are involved in the business itself. For example, the truckers. I know the agreement says that largely 70 to 80% of the containers shall be moved by rail, and they have a price tag on it. Currently, it's $300 on $300 to $400 on the existing railway line, which is of course dilapidated and it doesn't have efficiency. But if you look at the standard gauge railway at 1,070, and the port of Mombasa has been made to sign an agreement. If they don't meet the 70-80%, then they'll be forced to pay the loan. So it means, therefore, they will make use of the ICD facilities outside Mombasa. What it means is that every container that shall be landing in Mombasa will be moved to probably Nairobi or the Naivasha ACZ that is likely to be built. That means all the truckers would have lost a business opportunity. The drivers, the ton boys, the 10,000 trucks that I'm talking about, all those would have lost their jobs. And what it means for me and you is that we are moving from logistics that is affordable to a much higher cost way of doing business. Every cent counts in business, and therefore, if you're made to pay $1,070 for a container that comes to Nairobi, clear it, and then move it probably back to Voi, or move it back to Mombasa, or value add it here and move it back to Mombasa. For me, that is a cost, and after all, it will be disseminated to the Mwananchi down there. So those are the things that we must do differently. People must talk. People must have a conversation. We could do a lot of development or realize a lot of development agenda at a very cost-effective
way of doing things.
Precisely the point.
Okay. Now, one of the
and that is what we want to do.
Okay.
We want transparency. We want people must be held accountable. We want to be responsive to the real challenges at that time.
One of the areas that many might say the government has failed is job creation for the youth. As president, what is it that you would use or utilize to ensure that our youth, first of all, are employed? Because that deals with a lot of problems that we have right now.
You see, that is for example, I'm not, to be fair to everybody, today in this country, we have Chinese who can speak Giriama. If I was in Mtwapa and I saw one Chinese that I was being told he speaks Giriama, and he's doing hockey, So we have allowed as a country a lot of, not in a bad way, a lot of outsiders that have taken opportunities away from the young people. We want to have a lot of outsiders, but these outsiders must get involved with the young people and largely with Kenyans. So we create that environment that is conducive for people to grow. Otherwise, we will make our people more poorer every single day of their lives.
So what would be the
So
solution?
the thing to do is, for example, in Mombasa, in Lamu, in Kisumu, there is no reason as to why this country, 50 years down the line, does not have a free port facilities. These places do host ports. Kisumu, there's a port. Mombasa, there's a port. Lamu, there's a port that is being built. So therefore, if we created free trade zone in those areas, it means therefore everybody within the continent, East and Central Africa, instead of going to Dubai, instead of going to China, would have come to Kenya. That would create an enabling environment for our people to get involved in business. We needed to create efficiency in logistics, transport sector, not necessarily just the standard gauge railway, because as we do SGR today, we come till Nairobi. The next phase would be until Naivasha. But if we invested in our people, build capacity around them, and allow them to get involved in business, I think this country would have a different conversation. So the young people must get involved, and it is the government that would need to involve the people. We don't expect them to come from nowhere and imagine that they would, dive into governance and participate on how they can better their lives. Government must be able to facilitate on how we can get our women, our young people involved in doing business, business in this country.
All right.
And by the way, it can be based on a policy arrangement. It can be anchored in law. It happens in other countries. For example, Dubai, you hardly see the citizens of Dubai in the states that we are in, and yet they have utilized the foreigners
who come into the country.
They're foreigners, they're expatriates, basically to complement what needs to be done for them to better their lives. Yes.
All right. You've had a few run-ins with the government, and recently they literally almost shut down one of the businesses associated with your family and took your arms. What was that all about?
It's the way they personalize political decisions that we take. And this, you remember, was as a result of the Malindi by-election. So I woke up one morning, I was told the OCPD Mombasa wants to see you. And I said, well, what is it that you have to say? He said, I've come here to take all your security personnel. It's nothing personal. These are instructions from above. I said, well, take them. Then the following day, I get a call that, hand in your firearm. I said, what do you want to do? What, you want to kill me? What do you want to do? You want to send some people to attack me? You've taken away all the guards that I had from my house, from my office, the personal bodyguard that I had, you took away. And now you want to take away my guns. That's why I said, no, I will not do it. And I chose to go to the court. But this, for me, was a result of a position we took in the Malindi by-election. Then the other is the family business. By the way, they closed it down for a while. And then they found a way of saying it's open, but generally still closed because we do port-related business. Mm-hmm. And I know the government has directed the Port of Mombasa not to nominate cargo to our facility. So as we speak, the doors of the facilities are open, but operations are
stagnant.
Are not moving.
So you'd say it's purely personal. There was nothing.
It's unfortunate.
Apparently there was some contraband that was found, and investigations that were going
on. Who has been taken to court for the contraband that has been found? If this cargo must belong to someone. Cargo must be manifested to an individual or an organization. So who is this person that owns that cargo, and what action has been taken against that person? There's nothing. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was just a sideshow being created to show that we're bad people and involved in illegal dealings, but that's not true.
All right. I'm told by director time is almost up, and I know maybe on a lighter side that you're.
We didn't get to look at the pictures. We had some pictures.
So they were running. They were running as we were having the conversation. Of course, General Hospital and Kongwea Market. Yes. Yeah, what's the worst thing you've had people say about Ali Hassan Joho? Because you're one who raises a lot of conversation many times.
The trying moment for me was when I was member of parliament, and then somebody decided to label us with some very bad or illegal business dealings. That for me was the most trying moment, but I thank God we got to a point where I overcame it and life continued. The other day-to-day challenges we face as politicians, I have learned to be resilient enough to deal with them as they come, and I don't take anything personal. Mm-hmm. I deal with issues. You see, the way I have said my position on the deputy president is not because I don't like him as a person, but the lies that he uses when it comes to our people, we must tell the truth about them. So it's nothing personal. I don't judge people, but of course I deal with the challenges as they come, and I want to face them head on. I just don't want to shy away from saying the truth,
that may come.
Saying the truth and dealing with the day-to-day challenges.
Okay, yes. There are those who've also said that you would be associated with drug dealing, and I mean, how do you overcome that? What's your comments to that?
I think we have overcome that, and I said that was the most trying moment in my entire life, because I sat in parliament and all of a sudden I see somebody standing up and say 1, 2, 3. Which was as a shock. It came to me as a big shock, and my family suffered the most. But I thank God. We have now totally overcome that. In fact, even before the end of the 10th Parliament, that issue was dealt conclusively with by the government, and they made a report. And I found it unfortunate that in the process of playing politics, someone would want to destroy you totally, instead of fighting you with ideas, with proposals on policy frameworks that will better the lives of the people you want to lead, but go very personal and use or peddle lies against an individual. Mm-hmm. That for me was the most trying time.
Okay, so what does Ali Hassan Joho do, just to have a good time away from politics, away from your day-to-day activities? What is it that you do?
Before I joined politics, I used to play a lot of golf, almost on a daily basis. But I can tell you, the last time I was on a golf course was probably maybe 2 years ago. And I promised myself that every day, maybe tomorrow I'll find time, but because of the busy schedule, we needed to scale down on what we do for fun. But
Some of your fun moments, I guess, as you
I still have time. I still have time
to learn the shuffle,
to teach people the shuffle. I still have time to interact with people. I still have once in a while go fishing. I swim a lot. Last week I swam across the channel in Mombasa, and I enjoy that a lot. Okay. I dance with my friends, and I find it fun. I taught Kingi how to do that, by the way.
And you seem to do it quite well.
I play soccer.
You also love football.
I play soccer quite a lot.
Okay, do you go to the gym often?
Yes, I do. I have to keep fit.
You have to keep fit. Okay, and what about your spiritual man? How do you feed that? How do you take care of that?
As a Muslim, I have to pray 5 times a day. And then there's what we need to do as Muslims that you can't compromise. For example, charity, Hajj, Umrah, prayers, and helping others and stuff like that. I do that on a daily basis because for us, the distinction is how you follow what is in the book that makes you a good Muslim. And it's very simple, by the way. So that's what I do every day.
Okay.
I believe strongly in my God.
All right. How do you deal with rumors? There's been so many rumors about Ali Hassan Joho, left, right, and center. And some of them, I don't know if you'd want to demystify them. How do you deal with them?
Well, there are many. There are a lot of some of them. I just like push them away. I just don't bother with them. Some of the conversations.
I mean, on social media, there was a lot of talk that you were going out with a certain public figure. I don't know, is that true?
I saw that and I followed it. They even had a conversation on the kind of shoes people wear. And I asked, by the way, I picked up the call and asked. I called the CEO of Radio Africa. And I said, how does that help you to report about my personal life, what I do outside my day-to-day
your jurisdiction,
being governor or public figure? There are some decisions that are personal and that can't help anybody. If you put a conversation on a radio and you allow a call-in session for people to discuss the kind of shoes the governor wears
and who his friends are.
That doesn't help anybody.
Okay.
And some of these things are too personal.
All right.
You need to leave them out
of the public eye. All right, Governor, we'll have to wind it up right there. That music tells me that time is up. But thank you very much. It's been a pleasure hosting you right here on Person of Interest.
Unfortunately, I'm a bit unwell, but...
may you get well. We'll pray that you get well, and I'm sure you'll be well very soon. So thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have to wind up not Morning Express, but Person of Interest right about there. And for those of us on KTN Home, we'll wish you a good day because Life and Style begins at 8 o'clock. Those of us on KTN News, we've got news updates coming up. Then later on, we're going to be talking about your money and how to recover from financial failure. That's all coming up right here on Morning Express. Don't go away.